Hello and welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers, by gamers. I'm Junglist.
And I'm Bajo.
Badge, welcome back. How was the Game Developers Conference? Did you have fun in San Francisco?
Oh, what an epic journey it was, Junglist. Hey, did you know toilets flush the wrong way in America?
Yeah, what's with that? Hey, where's my present?
Okay.
Oh, cool. Oh, hey, this is that personal hygiene thing. I've been meaning to get into this.
More on GDC a little bit later in the show. This week, we hand Pirates of the Burning Sea some chickens.
Plus, we get compatible backwards styles with the Sega Dreamcast. What it was, where it went, and what it kind of still is.
We expand the latest expansion to Dawn of War, Soulstorm. But first, in keeping with the Warhammer universe, can you guess the name of the game for this week? But first, gamer news.
Australia's Office of Film and Literature Classification has refused a rating to Dark Sector, a third-person shooter developed by Digital Extremes. In their official report, the classification board described Dark Sector as a violent and sometimes gruesome game with a sinister storyline and ominous outcome. They also added that the reason for the game's refused classification was that its violence exceeded what was acceptable for an MA15+ game. The game's publisher, D3, have announced that they will self-censor and resubmit their game. Meanwhile, the Standing Committee of Attorneys General will discuss the possibility of introducing an R18+ rating for video games in Australia when they meet in March this year. Japanese game developer Fit Incorporated are offering delicious, fishy rewards to skillful players of their latest mobile phone game. Ipponzuri, which translates as one fish in English, is a fishing game where you actually get to eat what you catch. When a player reels in a lunker in the game, a message is instantly sent to a local fishmonger who will dispatch a raw fish to your doorstep. The game is only available in Japan at present, but with any luck, food dispensing games will catch on with the rest of the world. DirecTV's televised gaming competition, Championship Gaming Series, have announced the games to be played in 2008. Counter-Strike Source remains their 5 vs 5 team-based tactical shooter, and Dead or Alive 4 remains their choice of 1 vs 1 fighters. FIFA 07 has been upgraded to FIFA 08, and Project Gotham Racing 3 has been ditched altogether in favor of Forza 2. No mention was made of World of Warcraft, which made a sudden appearance in the 2007 finals after most of the tournament had already been played. The North American season of CGS will begin in early March, and our very own team, Sydney Underground, will begin competing in April in Wuhan, China.
With World of Warcraft exercising a clear dominance over the traditional massive multiplayer online format, it's about time someone tried something a little different. Enter Pirates of the Burning Sea.
In Pirates, you can either align yourself to Spain, France, or Britain, or you can be a pirate with no allegiance. If you do choose a country, though, you can be a privateer, naval officer, or a free trader. Every class has its own benefit, such as pirates can keep ships that they board, and free traders have special options at the auction house.
Obviously, pirates are the most popular class, but it doesn't really matter. Later on, you take part in massive battles to decide who owns the ports in the game. But they're not free-for-alls. Randomly, 24 players are selected to take part in these battles, and it evens the odds. There's also some missions you can do beforehand to get an advantage, like destroying the enemy supply lines.
There will only be a few thousand people on each server, which means a lot of the people that you see in-game will be real people. But it also gives you a chance to build up a real reputation in the community.
An economy where everything is made by the player is a brilliant idea. It means no one can really flood the market or just make their own stuff cheaper. Also, neglected items will be picked up by smart merchants for good cash. Building the biggest ships is a very complicated process where everything has to be crafted, like the masts to the cannonballs.
Taking it a little further, you can actually design your own ship sails and flags. Hardcore modeling enthusiasts can even design their own ships, which need to be submitted to a peer review process before being included in the game.
The lack of grinding in Pirates is great to see. MMOs by definition are limited in game design by the size of the world and lag. Pirates avoids this by good writing behind every single quest with only one objective to track.
Yeah, I agree, man. There was good writing and even humor in the NPCs. I laughed more after 30 minutes in Pirates than I ever did in World of Warcraft. But we did come across quite a few broken quests, and I even got one right at the beginning of the main pirate storyline.
And there's plenty of other new ideas in the game too, too many to mention. How did you find the combat?
Fighting takes on two forms in Pirates. There's ship-to-ship and hand-to-hand. Ship-to-ship battles are great fun, they look great, and they're very original. With simple controls but lots of depth, you can choose how hardcore you want to be.
If you just want to use the WSD keys to move and the spacebar to shoot, that's fine. But you can take it a little deeper and pay attention to wind direction, which gives you the right speed for your turns. You can even go deeper still, and it turns into a big dogfight with each ship vying for the best position.
You can choose to hammer their hull, or you can load up your cannons with knives and forks to decimate their crew before you board them. As fantastic as the ship-to-ship combat is, graphical glitches are constant and sometimes take up as much as 70% of the screen.
They don't ruin it at all, and it's a symptom of the game being new. It's still quite annoying, though. If you want to fight other real people in-game, you have to have your PvP flag enabled, so there's no ganking.
Now, when it comes to sword fighting, things are looking pretty woeful. NPCs move around fast and things can get crowded. Sometimes the hardest thing about boarding a ship is clicking on the enemy captain. Once the captain's dead, you win.
The idea behind hand-to-hand combat was good. You can use preparation moves to lower the enemy's balance and raise your initiative. If you get your initiative high enough and their balance low enough, you can do a finishing move. Or you can just do this.
Often you'll find yourself fighting one skilled enemy, which is all about lowering his balance. But even the one-on-ones didn't feel right, as some of the moves don't lower his balance as much as they should, and some are just useless. We found ourselves just abusing one or two abilities for the easy win. Overall, the hand-to-hand fighting in this game is terrible.
Now, there's no servers in Australia, but lag isn't really a problem with Pirates. Final thoughts, John?
I'm in a bit of a situation here, Badge. I mean, Pirates is a game that's bursting at the seams with good ideas, but it's dragged down with graphical glitches, broken quests, and woeful hand-to-hand combat.
Aren't all these things normal for an MMO that's just been released?
Yeah, but one of the broken quests was right at the beginning of the main pirate quest chain.
Well, there is a patch coming out, and graphical issues and broken quests can be fixed easily.
But we can't guarantee that they'll be fixed. And the hand-to-hand combat is the sort of thing that'll need some serious work. That's not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, the real question is, can you put up with the early problems of an MMO to get the good stuff out of Pirates? For me, it's a yes. You know, Pirates makes a point of doing things differently, and there's no tanks and healers and grind quests that we've seen 100 times before. I'm giving it 7 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It kind of puts me in mind of Lord of the Rings Online, Badge. I mean, that was an MMO that was polished, finished, and released on time. Truly a modern-day miracle. But Pirates is a game in two halves, and while the ship-to-ship combat is extremely impressive, the rest of the game is just not something I would want to spend my time in, at least not yet. I'm giving it 5.5 out of 10 scurvy chickens.
Good game. Underling! What's wrong?
It's my tool. No matter what I do, I cannot get clean. I try washing it. I try blowing on it. I even try praying to gods. But still, it stays dirty and sticky.
Underling, there is only one way to fix a dirty, sticky tool. Buy a new one!
Tribal leader, you are truly wise.
Good game.
We're here in sunny San Francisco for the Games Developers Conference. Over there, we've got Alcatraz, and on my right, some sort of colored bridge. Let's get into it. The conference attracts game developers, game design students, and game journalists from around the world. GDC isn't just about showing off the games, it's also about sharing information from university lecturers to independent game developers to lead producers from major companies, all sharing the knowledge. Right behind me, Rob Pardo is about to give a speech on Blizzard's approach to multiplayer game design. We're kind of hoping he slips some information about Lich King, but they're pretty tight-lipped so far. Let's check it out.
StarCraft 2, like the first half of development, and probably even beyond that, all we worried about was the multiplayer game. You know, the way I kind of look at it is that once you have a great multiplayer game, you know, you can construct a good single-player game from those pieces, but it's really hard to do the reverse.
Inside here is one of the gods of gaming, Sid Meier. Pirates.
And maybe it'll embarrass him, but let's start with a round of applause for our guest of honor and Lifetime Achievement Award winner.
I would play games like Monopoly or Risk. You know, there's a lot of Risk in Civilization. And then when I got a little older, I would play the kind of hardcore war games, hex-based war games.
I believe they call this the Expo Hall. Let's check it out. It's huge.
Still at the statue, and I'll count it down from 3, 2, 1.
Oh, that's cool.
So this right now is actually just from one point of view, but you can see the level of detail in your face. It's very clear. And if I turn the color on, there's actually a high-resolution color map.
Oh my God!
So this is the independent zone where small developers and even single people can make their own games and have it shown. And as you can see, it's pretty popular and there's some really interesting stuff here. Such great art design.
This game is Mayhem Intergalactic. It's a turn-based strategy game that I made. I'm here because I entered it into a competition called the Independent Games Festival. I get to see San Francisco, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've been going to a few lectures and things to the Independent Games Summit yesterday and the day before, so that was good.
Is GDC very much a networking kind of, more than a show-off kind of thing? Is it very much lots of deals being made under the table, stuff like that?
There's some deals, yeah. A lot of business cards being passed around. It's, yeah, get to meet a lot of people in the industry that I've sort of heard of before, putting names to faces. It's kind of cool.
Well, it's feeding time here at GDC. A chance for everyone to sit back and regain some energy. But no one is really touching the apples.
For me, like as an artist, you know, I get to go to all the booths, I get to talk to a bunch of developers and see, you know, what kind of jobs are available, what people are up to. I have business cards with me and a website, so, you know, I can hand out my card and see if anyone emails me or, you know, make some contacts.
I'm a speaker this year for a Serious Games Summit conference. Well, I was talking about the different companies in France making serious games.
Do you get invited here by GDC?
Yes, I was.
Do they pay you to come out here?
No, they didn't, but I had a free pass for everywhere. So
Greg, why are you here at GDC?
To learn about indie games and games in general, game design.
Do you find the information that you're taking away here really good?
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, we just came from Rob Pardo's speech about multiplayer game design and took like 5 pages of notes.
We spent the past 2 days at the Independent Games Summit, which was just back-to-back awesome talks from indie developers, just really inspiring, a lot of good business info. So,
is it a rule to be part of your team you have to have facial hair? So how are you finding GDC this year?
It's bigger. It's much bigger, but it's still centered on the game development community, so it's interesting. Some people don't even come to the show floor. They just stay in the bar and do deals all day. I'm looking to find out more about what's going on in PC, what's going on in mobile, and some of the new indie game development I'm particularly excited about.
They're actually showing off my game, Welcome to Wilshire Heights, which is a zombie shooter game. So,
what's it like trying to show off your work here? Do you have a place where you can show it off?
They set up a computer for me to show it off. It's kind of difficult because it's a really difficult game and a lot of people are getting pissed off at it, and I'm like sitting there going, oh, I'm gonna die.
I've been hired out to Big World on there to work on the booth, show off, what's technology that we make and use. I think E3 definitely had a reputation for being a lot more flashy and booth babes everywhere and lots and lots of money being spent. GDC is a lot more professional, from what I understand. Just people that know what they're talking about, networking, lectures, learning stuff.
Well, the conference was great, and we're feeling inspired and excited about where the industry is heading. But I am a little bit over the San Francisco weather, so I'm going home.
Looks like you had a good time.
Yeah, you know, it was inspiring, especially the indie game scene and how seriously they were taken, and some of the stuff they were coming up with was really innovative.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What indie games have you played? What do you think they fit in the grand scheme of things? And with so much money being spent on AAA titles nowadays, how can indie games hope to compete?
Hop on the forums and share your thoughts. But now, it's time for a cartridge affair.
Good evening, viewers. I'm Gavin Hostman, and you're watching A Cartridge Affair. In tonight's program, we take a look at a controversial issue that's been shaking the nation: barrels. You see them in the streets, underground private militia bunkers, and distant future space stations. Some pass them by, but then many have cruelly fired their weapons at them, turning them into fiery infernos. And after years of abuse, the barrel community is speaking up and demanding rights. So the government has responded with these public service announcements.
Hey, it was just an easy way to score some frags, you know?
Look, I had a gun, it was red, it just had to know what was gonna happen.
Come on, it was just a barrel, just an inanimate object.
Violence against barrels, Australia says no. We now bring you footage from earlier today, where hundreds gathered at a pro-barrel protest meeting.
My brothers, they persecute and they abuse us. They knock us down, they blow us up, and they say we deserve it because we're colored red, or we have little flammable stickers on our sides. But no more, my people, no more will we suffer!
Police are yet to lay charges and have dismissed rumors claiming the assassination was the work of publicized barrel opposers, as a wooden crate on the scene was cracked open and ammunition was found. Coming up after the break, the miracle diet that has celebrities shedding the kilos.
Good game. When we think back on the successes and failures in the history of gaming, there's one console's fate that continues to puzzle us even today. That console was the Sega Dreamcast. First released in 1998, the Dreamcast was the world's first 128-bit console. It had a lot of features that were innovative for its time, and a few that are considered unique today. It was the first home console to have a built-in modem that allowed for competitive online play. It even had the first console-based, massively multiplayer online game, Phantasy Star Online. It also had these. It's a visual memory unit, or VMU for short, and it was kind of like a cross between a Game Boy and a memory card. When it was plugged into a Dreamcast controller, it functioned as an extra screen, and depending on the game, it would often show vital gameplay information or just a cute logo. When it was out of the controller, the VMU worked like a miniature handheld console and could play games downloaded from the Dreamcast. But the Dreamcast didn't just have a cool memory card, it also had some amazing games. Sega had plenty of arcade games waiting to be ported to console, and as a result, many of the early Dreamcast games were classics like Virtua Fighter 3, Sega Rally Championship, Crazy Taxi, and House of the Dead 2. Another arcade game to land on the Dreamcast was Namco's Soul Calibur. A visually stunning fighting game, Soul Calibur combined elaborate swordplay with fluid animation and super responsive controls. It was probably the console's single most popular game, and even today it's considered a classic of the fighting game genre. The Dreamcast wasn't all arcade ports, however. It also had some memorable original games.
Over the hood, through the streets, and right into your brain. Jet Set Radio!
Jet Set Radio, for example, was the first game to use cartoon-styled, cel-shaded 3D graphics. And as well as looking good, its rollerblading, graffiti spraying gameplay ensured that it was fun to play as well. Even Sega's mascot, Sonic the Hedgehog, got his own Dreamcast outing, Sonic Adventure, arguably the spiky blue hedgehog's last great game. Of all of these, however, the Dreamcast's most notable game was Shenmue. Taking 7 years to develop and costing upwards of $20 million, Shenmue was the dream project of legendary game designer Yu Suzuki, the creator of classics such as Space Harrier and Virtual Fighter.
Hey, wait a minute!
Combining deep role-playing with a cinematic storyline and combat that was lifted directly from the Virtua Fighter series, Shenmue was hailed as a masterpiece for its incredible attention to detail and immense gameplay scope. However, it didn't sell well, and neither did its sequel, Shenmue 2. While the Dreamcast was loved by gamers for its cutting-edge features and great games, it never cracked the mainstream market, with most consumers opting for the PlayStation 2 when it launched in 2000. With sales and profits dwindling, Sega had little choice but to pull the plug on the Dreamcast, discontinuing the console in early 2001 and withdrawing from the hardware business entirely. Despite the console's demise, the Dreamcast continued to amass a dedicated following. Hardcore gamers treasured the console for its countless arcade shoot-em-ups like Ikaruga, and it also became a haven for 2D fighting fans, with arcade-perfect ports of Street Fighter III, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and the King of the Fighter series. The Dreamcast's cult status is so enduring that new games are still being released for it today. The most recent game was Trigger Heart Excelica, released in 2007. And there's at least one new game planned for release on the console in 2008. It just goes to show that you can't keep a good console down.
3.5 years young, Dawn of War is the strategy game that brought the Warhammer 40k universe from the tabletop to the PC. Pioneering ideas like cover, morale, and customizable squads, it's been a favorite both online and off. And seeing as it's been almost a year and a half since its last expansion, Relic thought it was time for another.
Dawn of War Soulstorm promises to bring 2 new races and also interplanetary combat and air vehicles into the fray. Sadly, these promises are just gimmicks. The interplanetary combat is the same Risk-style mode campaign we saw in the previous version, and the air vehicles, even though they're in air, they have the same place in the counter system as the Land Raider, so basically there's not really much difference in the gameplay.
That's right, I mean, you really only even notice they fly on the few maps with lots of mountains on them. Attacking an enemy headquarters in the campaign mode is effectively your boss battle, where you have to deal with constant attacks, troops dropping into the back of your base, massive artillery barrages, and multiple objectives with time limits. It's great, but again, all this was introduced in the last expansion, Dark Crusade.
First up for the new races are the Sisters of Battle, religious zealots hell-bent on cleansing the universe from humans, mutants, and aliens alike. Now, true to Relic style, they've included some nice animations and flame effects for the new units.
But looking past the cosmetics, the Sisters of Battle play exactly like the main human faction, Space Marines. They do have a new resource called Faith, which is gained by getting units to sit around and pray, but you don't actually need to pay attention to this to win. I don't want to use the word clone here, Badge, but I actually used some of the Space Marine strategies as the Sisters of Battle, and they worked. That was a huge disappointment for me. It means the Sisters of Battle are basically Space Marines with better fashion sense. Thankfully, the second faction is a little bit better.
Yes, second up we have the Dark Elder, who play surprisingly like the Elder. However, their resource is a little less gimmicky. They harvest souls from the battle, which they then use for special abilities, such as giving units the ability to see stealth units.
Yeah, and that was all right, but there's a hidden neglect here, Badge. While we're being fed these 2 new races that are pretty much copies of old ones, there's still one race from Warhammer 40k tabletop that isn't in the PC game. Tyranids. Relic, where are the Tyranids?
Multiplayer still shines, with online 10-minute matches packing in as much micro and strategy as you could handle. However, the pathfinding still hasn't been fixed, and after 3.5 years, you'd think someone would be onto that.
And you still can't zoom out far enough. I mean, it's always touted as a feature in these games that you can zoom right in on the action. No one wants to zoom in, we want to zoom out.
I mean, the reason they do this, of course, is so that there isn't so much happening on the screen at once and they can save on hardware resources, but I think it's time to move on.
Absolutely. After so long, low-range computers can run this game fine. It's time to let us see the whole battle. Time to wrap up, Badge. What do you reckon?
Well, Relic have always been good at balancing their games, and so really the biggest achievement of Soulstorm is maintaining the status quo. Unfortunately, the 2 new races are uninteresting, and the core gameplay hasn't been improved, so I'm giving it 5.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Dawn of War is a fantastic game. Soulstorm is an ordinary expansion. I'm giving it 5 out of 10 rubber chickens. Dawn of War Soulstorm is a standalone expansion, so you don't need the original to play it. It comes out for PC in a few days.
So did you guess the game for this week?
It was Space Hulk for the PC. It came out in 1993 and was one of the first computer games to be based on Games Workshop's Warhammer 40,000 series of tabletop games, Dawn of War being one of the latest, of course.
Instead of tiny painted miniatures, you controlled a virtual space marine and had to fight back an invasion of Tyranids in a mix of first-person shooting and real-time strategy gameplay.
Tyranids in a game, yeah. Coming up next week, in an almost TV World exclusive, we meet possibly the most famous game designer of all time. He created The Sims, SimCity, Mr. Will Wright.
And we put to him that essential question. Ninjas or pirates?
Oh, ninjas, definitely.
Why?
Without a doubt. Well, they're more stylish to begin with. Pirates have the most, just uncoordinated outfits in the world. Ninjas have much cooler weapons, too. They can, how many pirates can throw things? They don't have spears, they have swords. I mean, a ninja can take one down with a shuriken in no time. Plus, pirates are smelly and noisy. And, if I had to live with a pirate or a ninja, I'd pick the ninja any day because they could just disappear into the background. You can kind of ignore them.
Next week, our extensive interview with Mr. Wright, plus turn-based tactics on the DS with Advance Wars, Days of Ruin. Now, for those of you who haven't heard, the Good Game Game is a project where we'll be working together to get our own game made by a professional game developer.
Send in your idea for a game and you could win a game industry mentorship. Competition entries officially open today, so jump on our website for more details. We'll also be running a few stories in the coming weeks that could help you with your idea.
Don't forget, you can download any episode of Good Game and also leave us a message on the forums. Until next week, gamers, Bajo out.
Junglist out.